This is AU's position. They took a much more pragmatic approach here, I think, feeling perhaps, not in their head, that they could not win the ultimate, okay, the total elimination of it. But they could win controls, meaningful controls on legislative prayer. Okay. Another one would be a decisive ruling that finds Greece in the wrong and therefore forcing it to adopt a balanced prayer program, i.e. all faith paths, non-faith paths represented, the elimination of overtly sectarian prayers, elimination of all coercive prayers or prayers that disparage other faiths. In other words, right guidelines, specific guidelines. As you and I both know, all this will do is muddy the waters again. It'll give these guys more opportunity to try to squeeze through. The ADF is probably already drafting its pamphlet, how to bypass Town of Greece versus Galloway, okay, as we speak. It would be a mess. It would truly be a mess. But frankly, I see that happening too. The reason I say that is the court has been notorious lately for very narrow rulings. They don't want to do those broad swipes like they did with school prayer, okay? They don't want to do that. They want to keep it nice and narrow, nice and workable, hopefully that it doesn't create any precedent that may be burdensome down the road. You know, they're trying really hard. So if they're going to be any thoughts in this, it'll primarily be how can we stay within just this case and make it work and make the problem go away. The Supreme Court's decision in Greece will serve as the new basis for what is and what is not permitted when it comes to prayers before official meetings. Guidance that could be applied in cases involving all aspects of religion in the public square. Because you know how that works. Whenever any ruling is done, people like you and me and the religious right look for precedent, look for options, look for opportunities in their new cases as they come up. So this is a big deal. Now, they'll probably talk about it in spring and summer. They'll probably release it. I wouldn't expect it till the summer. They're going to wait until Congress is out. Okay? So the congressman won't be burdened with having to answer any questions about their opinion of it. Okay? That's when I suspect they'll do it, because it'll be quieter that way. All right? Okay, that's about all I have to say on this issue. Anyone have any other questions or comments? Thanks. Thank you. Anything else? Arlene wants Q&A. She's not going to let you go to lunch until 1 o'clock. You got 10 minutes. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much, guys. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for a very interesting talk. I really enjoyed that. Two points. First off, I wonder how the court could justify eliminating the coercion that the AU brought up as the main point. Mm-hmm. If I say we're a Jew or a Buddhist and happen to go to the city council meeting when they happen to have a Christian prayer, would I have to acknowledge that Christian prayer, or as a Buddhist or Jew, would I have to step out? In which case, it becomes a matter of luck of the draw as to which meeting I happen to get going to.
You're absolutely right. And you can't get rid of the coercion. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. That's why when they ruled the school prayers, they said things like that. They said, no sending kids out in the hall, that's coercion. No making them sit down while everyone stands, that's coercion. Okay? So that's why they just simply eliminated it there to avoid that, but not here. They're not talking about here. Yeah.
The other question is, it appears that AU has taken the lowest risk strategy. But even if they win, doesn't that then sort of bless, pardon the expression, the use of prayer in these other circumstances, legislature, state and federal legislation sessions?
Yes. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right.
So there's a downside to that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. There's a downside to it. There's a downside to almost any kind of legal court hearing. You know, there is that the possibility that inadvertently a consequence will be created that will pay for a long time. AU, like many organizations, they have to be somewhat conservative, and they have to pick their cases wisely. They're hoping for one. This case, I'm sure they took and pursued enthusiastically because they felt that they could not only win, but also that it would establish precedents that would be productive for us all. You know, basis for further movement. Were they were they not aggressive enough? I do. I think so. Okay, but that's just me. They would differ. They would differ. But I think if Barry Valin were standing right next to me, he would say, I hope that first option would have happened. They'd just eliminate it altogether. But why lose it all when you can gain some, I guess is the theory. Hi.
Hi. This is not so much directed to what you're talking about,
yeah.
but it is.
Okay.
I want to thank you for, that was very intriguing, the report that you gave. But I've been listening and I've been watching and looking at everybody here, and I just wonder what would happen to the religion in our country if we only gave our children in schools true and proper education of the world. If we educated our children, I noticed that someone spoke about, you know, not wanting to bring children in because of their, what do you say, you know, it's vulnerability,
right?
Right. Yeah. But our children have been in school, including me in my younger years, all my life. And I've been miseducated. Right. And so, was I not a child? Did I not receive improper education? And so, if I've traveled the world and I have learned quite a bit. And I looked at the missionaries on the plains as they went over to Africa, Asia, Europe, coming from Europe. And I just thought, if our people, by the way, my name is Asada, I'm with a minority, black non-believers of Detroit. If our people, the minority, not just black, if we were educated as to really the history of the U.S. and the world, would we be religious? Would we be Christians? Would we be Muslims? Would we be Buddhists? Would we be Jewish?
I would say, I agree with you that we teach religious issues completely wrong in this country. I taught for 15 years world religions. 6 weeks usually I dedicate to this, which is the most effective teaching I've ever done. And I think it was the most beneficial teaching I ever did because the kids had a chance to look at all these various faith paths. I say that, and no path at all. I talk about atheism as well. One thing that I found so intriguing is that if I was talking Judaism, all the kids wanted to become Jews. And then we talk about Islam, and they all wanted to be Muslim, okay? And they would shift and shift and shift and shift, but ultimately it was fine. But I can tell you the reason why more teachers don't do this and why more school districts don't embrace this kind of approach, including atheism, was because the minute I brought up Christianity and talked about Christianity from an historical perspective and so on and so forth, I would get deluged with calls from religious rightists. Most of them, demanding my job, unless I took an extremely evangelical approach to it. I could not say anything bad about it. I couldn't even, in some cases, I remember bringing up the Trinity, and I got a phone call saying, we don't recognize the Trinity. Why are you talking about the Trinity? You know? So then I would tell the kids, we're going to talk about all the world religions except Christianity. Because frankly, I don't want to get any phone calls. And I'm going to assume, since most of your parents believe that this is a Christian nation, that you have plenty of education about Christianity. That was cynical on my part. But the fact of the matter was the only practical solution I had. Yes, if we taught that, a cross-section of philosophies, frankly, I would prefer than world religions. If we taught that, yes, I think it'd be better off. But you know what? I think we'd be just as religious. I think we would be.
Okay, but I don't know if you missed my point.
Maybe I did.
I'm not speaking of religion, period. I was in Ghana recently, and I went to the slave castles.
Yeah.
Okay? And when I went into the slave castles, the tour guide explained to us that, okay, not long.
Can I
Okay, sure.
interrupt? We have very few minutes left,
Okay.
and there are other people who would like to ask
Sure.
a question.
All right, Norm.
Al, thank you very much for your talk. I
You're
enjoyed
welcome.
it, as
You're
always. A question and a comment. First, I'm just confused about why the Supreme Court would have taken this case anyway. They didn't have to take it. They could have just let the ruling stand and the precedent stand.
I think the reason was, and I tried to research this. I tried to research, and all I could get was various court watchers, their take and opinion on the thing. They had to accept the fact that Marsh and Lemon and all the rulings were way too permissive, causing way too much problems, way too divisive. And I think they felt forced to take it just to simply make something more decisive, more definitive, and put this crap behind us.
So that's reason for optimism, because it's going to be narrow then. It's going to be more narrow than
Yeah,
before.
I think it'll be, because that's the way they operate, that's the way they hang. But they're going to come out and say, no, this is pretty decisive.
Yeah. I would like you to talk a little bit more about the religious freedom defense,
Yeah.
because this comes up around circumcision as well, where
Right.
parents say, oh, you're violating my religious freedom by telling me that I shouldn't or can't circumcise my child. They don't consider the rights of the child. They just see it, this is my religious freedom, and they use that as a free pass to say, I can do this.
Yep.
Same thing in New York with the Hasidic are doing the genital oral suction after the circumcision.
Right.
They're saying the same thing. The city of New York tried to stop them, and they said, no, you're violating my religious freedom. Even to tell the parents that this is a risky procedure, they're saying, you're violating my religious freedom. Could you speak to that some more?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, and that belief that the Hasidic Jewish community has is expanding. Evangelicals are picking this up and so forth. I think what it is a new strategy they're developing. Okay, the religious right is developing. With the Hasidic community, it's different. That's a different ballgame. They've always bought into that. But the evangelical community are seeing it as a new strategy, a new way that they can wedge things, or a new way that they can get their voice out there by simply talking, my religious liberties are being jeopardized, my religious freedom being jeopardized. Okay? Even though it's a violation of the common good, like you implied. For example, when they get real upset when somebody is not allowing a Christmas party at the school, they scream, my religious freedom is being jeopardized. They don't care about everyone else's religious freedom, just their own. But it's a strategy that they're using that generates a great deal of attention, and as a result generates a great deal of money for them. I wish I could answer more decisively, but I think that's what it is. It's just a strategy, a new strategy like the Christian nation strategy. That would expand their base.
I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about that.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
violating my religious freedom,
Yeah.
because abortion is covered in the insurance
Exactly.
policy
Yeah,
of my
yeah.
employer.
You notice that the Catholic bishops, when they got their concession on contraceptives for the churches and all that kind of church organizations, how they completely shut up. But that was their argument, our religious freedom. They got what they wanted. They're not talking about religious freedom anymore. They're done. See, so I think it's a strategy. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Can there be a compromise between a group that values freedom versus a group that values power? Seems like that's what this is.
Oh, man, I don't know. I think that's the age-old question. It really is.
If not, if there isn't a compromise, are we doomed to duke it out?
I think we're doomed to duke it out until the Supreme Court says, finally, no, you can't pray in front of these legislative sessions. And the smoke and the hue and cry will happen, and when it finally goes down, we'll be good. Now, the religious right still talks about prayer in the school. They still talk about it. But the minute you tell them, no, my kids can pray all day long if they want, I just can't lead it, they shut up, okay? Because they recognize that that is indeed true. But they still bring it up. And I think the same thing could happen here, that eventually, if they were to outlaw them, hue and cry would be huge for quite a while, and then it go down. But as far as the question of freedom versus power, for a lot of people, power is freedom, or freedom is power. I don't know.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. It's not my
I had
fault. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I had a three-part question, but the first part of it was why did they take it in the first place? And you did a good job of answering that. You've done a great job at reviewing the details of this, which you've clearly been involved in for pretty deeply, and it's been very interesting. But stepping back, I wonder if you'd be interested in commenting on what you think the impact has been of 6 Supreme Court justices of the same very hierarchical, dictatorial religion on particularly this religious question, and whether or not you think the new Pope's attitude is going to have an impact on them.
Well, he's pissing people off, isn't he? I really like this guy. I think this guy is really very, very good and very entertaining. The religious right is mad at him, because he's talking communism. I mean, don't forget, religious rightists generally consider themselves to be true patriots as well. No, I don't think the Pope's position will temper Scalia one bit. Okay? Scalia is a good Catholic boy, no question, but I don't think he's going to back down even a second because Francis told him that it's, lighten up. I really don't think that's going to have much impact at all. However, what it might have impact is that the rank and file Roman Catholics will continue to put the pressure on their own bishops and saying, that's enough. You guys are way too hardcore for us, way too cut and dry in your pronouncements. Even the Pope agrees with us. And that may have impact over time. Okay? I wish he had that kind of power for now. He's an interesting fellow. Oh, I got to share a quick story. I'm sorry if I real fast. No. We have one more question?
No, we don't.
We don't. We don't have any more questions.
I'm sorry. Fortunately, we don't have the option because the chef is out there and he's like, do you people really want to eat today or tomorrow? But I do want to give Hal a plaque, an award. And where's our photographer? And here, step over here with me, Hal. Also, and yes, I knew you were going to love this man. I just knew it, and I gave him an extra almost 20 minutes. So that was well worth it. Now, and I want to have some of these secular folks to have a little chance to have something to say today, and so I think I'm just going to start with the Godless Gunny guy, this Stu Chisholm guy. We all love him. He's been our DJ today. It's the first time we've ever had a DJ, too, music. Did you like that? We're going to do a little more of that. Hey, Stu. Stu is sitting back there because he has written a book. And guess what the book is all about? Guns. So if you get an opportunity to, visit Stu at the vendor table, take a look at his guns. And Stu, would you come up and say a few words to us, please?
Hey, thanks. I'll tell you, to be perfectly honest, the whole Godless Gunny thing was a total selfish act on my part. As you might guess, if you're a firearms fan and you go to your typical shooting range, you're surrounded by Republican Bible thumpers. And they'll ask me about my Darwin thing or my Dawkins A pin, and then of course I say, well, I'm an atheist now. Of course, then they bombard you with all the usual questions. So this leads to two things. The first thing being that I'm a member of the Detroit Atheist Meetup. We meet over in Troy once a month, and when I was talking about my little hobby at one of our afterglows after the meeting, one of the ladies there said, well, when are we going to have our own atheist shooting day? And I said, well, I didn't think there'd be any interest, because the eye roll is palpable when I start talking about this when you go to the meeting proper. But I said, who would be interested in coming to one? And about a dozen hands went up. So I put a sign-up sheet and got about 30 people and thought, wow, out of 50? That's pretty good. And of course, some of them signed up just to try it, and which is an atheist, very, very liberal atheist thing to do. If you're going to knock something, you try it first, and I have to commend them for it, because even if they don't do it, they all left with a smile on their face. We've never had anyone hurt, and it's been a lot of fun. So the second thing is when you're answering questions about, especially such a controversial topic these days, the little sign I put up by my table, it says, if you've ever wished for a nonpartisan, fact-based overview of guns, gun politics, crime, and how we might get past the hollering and reduce crime, this is the volume you've been waiting for, and I'm talking about the book I wrote. And that, too, was kind of out of desperation, because we always get the same questions. You know, isn't the Second Amendment about a militia? And doesn't that have muskets? Isn't that, and all the same questions? And instead of answering them repeatedly like I've been doing for the past, I don't know, 30 years, now I can say, no, here's all your answers. Read this. I love doing that. And if you'd like to know, then I have a pile of books over there, and if you really want it signed, I'd be happy to do it, although I'll have you know it lowers the value defacing your book like that. So anyway, we have a web page, too, on Facebook. If you search Godless Gunnies Detroit, sign up on the page. We do discuss things, and I let the questions fly. It's a free fly zone. If you want to ask some deep, penetrating questions you've always wanted answered, I'm happy to answer them. We have a free, we don't censor anybody or anything. But the best part about signing up is we'll let you know where all the shoots are. And we jump around from location to location just to give everyone a chance to be the person who lives close. Island Lake up north here is one of our favorite. Everyone loves Island Lake, so we make the drive anyway. And we go to a lot of the DNR parks too, Bald Mountain and Pontiac Lake. And Arlene and George come out, and I swear I just love watching George with his duffel bag, and he walks up to the thing and he starts pulling out hardware. It's like Jack Bauer's bag. They just never stop. This man he's got more guns than I'll ever think about. But well, it helps to be an ex-cop. So anyway, so I hope you'll join us. And again, if you want to know more about a secular atheist view of gun politics, I'm in the back. Thank you.
Stu has really been helpful for us. He's come and spoke at our group, and he spoke also at CFI in Grand Rapids with this thing, this Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman issue. So his voice of reason where guns are concerned, not necessarily about that case, because Stu and I don't agree with the outcome of that case, but him teaching us about laws and stand your ground and the castle doctrine and the do's and don'ts of those of us who are licensed to carry concealed weapons and certainly do carry them. Come out and shoot with us sometime. If you've never shot, we'll teach you how to do it, but we don't pray about it.